This record comes from Suryara. What follows is an observation. When I got back east, I started asking a different kind of question. Not what is happening. I have had enough of that. I started asking who has been there long enough to remember what this looked like before. It took a few days, but eventually someone pointed me towards an old man who lived near the edge of one of the older settlements. He keeps records, they said, old ones, goes back further than anyone else's. His house was small, built too close to an old step well that wasn't used much anymore. The kind of place that looks like it has always been there, like the settlement grew up around it. I knocked. He opened the door before I finished knocking, like he'd heard me coming. From further away than that. He didn't ask me why I was there, he just gestured inside and went back to what he was doing, which was reading. The room was full of records, not administrative logs, not construction schedules, the other kind. Handwritten, some of them very old, water levels going back further than I expected, seasonal patterns, notes in margins, from people long dead who had noticed something and written it down, because they weren't sure what else to do with it. I recognized that feeling immediately. He didn't look up for a while. Then he said, "You've been walking around a lot of Suryara recently." I asked him how he knew that. He tapped one of the records without looking at me. "Because you have the look of someone who has seen more than one place doing the same thing." I sat down. He pulled out a record from what looked like 40 or 50 years ago. Water levels, seasonal release timings, notes on Pokédex behavior alongside the numbers. He pointed to a section near the middle. This period here, three consecutive seasons, where the basin dropped faster than expected, different settlements, different water sources, all within the same 2 year window. I leaned in. "What caused it?" I asked. He looked at me for the first time properly. "That's the right question," he said. "Nobody has asked it earlier." He turned a few pages. The records after that period showed a slow stabilization, things returning to normal over the following seasons. People had assumed it corrected itself, written it off as an unusual stretch, filed it, moved on. He closed the record carefully. "It didn't correct itself," he said. "Something else shifted, that people weren't watching. The correction came from somewhere nobody was looking." He said it quietly, not dramatically, just as a fact he had spent a long time sitting with alone. He had one. I noticed it when he stood up to pull another record from the shelf. Resonara, sitting completely still in the corner of the room. Enormous arched ears, spiral patterns glowing faintly. The kind of stillness that doesn't feel like sleep, more like deep, sustained attention. I asked him how long he'd had it. "It found me," he said, "about 30 years ago. Sat outside the door for 3 days before I let it in." He said Resonara has been present for every record he'd written ever since. "It hears things in the ground. I can't," he said. "I write down what I observe. It hears what's underneath it. Between the two of us, we get closer to the truth than either one alone." He set the records down and looked at me properly. "What have you seen?" he said. "Not what do you think, not what's your theory, what you have seen." So I told him the eastern basins, the salt flats, the coastline, the Pokemon adjusting across all three, the explanation traveling from settlement to settlement without anyone testing it. He listened without interrupting, without nodding along, just listening, the way people listen when they are comparing what you are saying to something they already know. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "It's faster this time." I asked him what he meant by that. He pointed to the old records. "Last time this happened, it took 4 seasons before anyone noticed, across multiple areas. You have noticed it in one." He wasn't saying it like good news. He was saying it the way you say something when the speed of a thing is itself the concerning part. I asked him if he thought it would correct the way it did before. He looked at Resonara in the corner. The spiral pattern on its ears were pulsing slightly, very slow, like something in the ground beneath us was producing a frequency it was working hard to organize. He didn't answer my question directly. He just said, "Come back tomorrow. I want to show you something else." I walked back to where I was staying as it got dark. The stepwell beside his house caught the last light in a way that made it look much older than everything around it, which I suppose it was. I kept thinking about what he said. "It's faster this time. Not it's different this time. Not it's worse this time. Just it's faster this time." Like he'd been expecting something like this to happen again. He just hadn't expected it to move this quickly. I've been collecting observations for weeks, thinking I was the only one paying attention. Turns out, someone had been paying attention for 40 years, and he was more concerned than I was.